Well, hey there, Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon here with tracking a few isolated showers and thunderstorms that we do have out there this afternoon and evening. We do anticipate that as we go through the afternoon, we'll have a few isolated storms. I think most storms, thankfully, should be below severe limits, but from time to time, one or two strong thunderstorms can't be completely ruled out. Let's look here what we're looking at. You can't see there, looking southern Lee County, kind of northwestern Monroe County, northeastern Chickasaw County and southeastern Pontotoc County. We do have this severe thunderstorm warning that remains in effect, as you can see, until 2 p.m. there. Missed live weather radar at this point here. A couple we're looking at with this. Certainly looking at potential perhaps for some strong wind gusts out of this, the wind potential out of this, kind of what the straight line wind looks like. You can see a fairly broad area where that kind of is expanded. I'll go ahead and put this into motion here, kind of give you a little bit of a loop here for a second. So we'll make this a 1 hour loop as you can kind of see the progression from kind of west to east here as this expands eastward. Again, a lot of lightning with this. Lightning strikes over the course of the last 30 minutes, so about 600 strikes there with this. Again, mostly lightning, more likely cause some power disruptions at this point here. To bring back kind of the current scan for a second, we'll go and interrogate this a little bit closer and bring it back over here to the regular precipitation mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. So back here, the rainfall mode. And again, look at that portion there from Troy, kind of circle here, the spot, again, the kind of leading edge there, where again, as that kind of works its way toward the south and east, that'll have some stronger wind gusts with that. Let's go and clear that off here for a moment. And so a couple things we'll look at with this. I think we will go ahead and we'll kick this over here to our hail projection on this, just kind of looking at the hail on this. And our hail threat, as you can see, not something that's overly impressive. Let's make this a slightly longer loop here, make it a 1 hour loop here. As you'll notice, not much showing up in the hail category. So again, more than anything else, this is probably going to end up being some gusty wind. And even there, I think there remains some questions as to how strong that will be. We'll look at kind of the shear rate. Again, one of those things that we from time to time can look at for rotation. And more than anything, it's just where we get like a strong interaction there from time to time where we get kind of concerned something. I don't see, again, anything as far as rotation is concerned that is really overly impressive out of this as well, thankfully, at this time. Bring it back to the latest scan. Kick this back to the regular rainfall mode there on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Additional thunderstorm developments. You can see we do have that thunderstorm there, kind of the leading outflow. That's what this kind of green line is here on the front end. I'll go ahead and outline that for you. That is the rain cooled air kind of expanding toward the east with this. Oops, sorry about that. I kind of clicked and moved the whole thing for a moment. But yeah, that's that rain cooled air kind of expanding eastward with this, as it does. Again, some strong gusty winds possible on the leading edge of that as well. We'll clear that off here for a moment. We'll bring it back here to our cameras. A couple cameras that did want to go ahead and try to see if we can query here for you a moment. Of course, our Tupelo camera here, kind of looking back into some of this. Again, heavy rainfall, some gusty wind there out of this. This is looking more kind of a northwesterly direction. You definitely could see it kind of shaking back and forth just a little bit there. You'll notice in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, excuse me, lower left-hand corner of the screen, the storm that's largely over top of Tupelo is non-severe at this point. Unfortunately, it looks like the reporting station there at the Tupelo airport not responding at this instant. But certainly some gusty winds with that. Bring it back, go and close that off here for a moment and bring it back to the regular mode. I want to look at, again, back over at the wind, what we call base velocity. Basically, this is the straight line wind there coming from the airport. And you can see kind of looking at what specifically is over top of, say, the Tupelo area and for locations down south. Certainly a lot more lightning on the Tupelo portion of this. I know I'll widen this, and I think it probably does the best job of showing this. I mean, I always like to say with these, what we call, air mass sort of thunderstorms, this is not an organized, overly impressive thunderstorm. But it is one that, they kind of pop up and collapse over a period of time. I mean, you just look at the sheer absence of lightning that you have, down here where our severe storm is versus what we have north, right? I mean, this is where all the thunderstorms are, is in the, quote unquote, non-severe portion. But when I kind of pull off the lightning strikes here for a moment, give me a moment to see if I can pull that off here for just a second. What you'll note is clearly your brightest greens are in the southern portion of this. So while we have the most electric and probably in some ways, most interesting part of the thunderstorm in that regard, up here closer to Saltillo, back to the northern part of Tupelo. The severe storm south, again, where we have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 2 p.m., has less lightning, so I would say is less impressive than was just a little bit ago. I'm going to see if we can look three-dimensionally on this thunderstorm, get kind of an analysis. Yeah, and let's go ahead and make this a slow loop. We'll make this a 30-minute loop. Clearly, you can see what prompted the warning there south of Pontotoc has to go through a collapsing phase. And that outflow boundary, that's that rain cooled air we talked about at the beginning here. Maybe I'm better off using blue to kind of illustrate that there. But the rain cooled air kind of at the front edge of this. Wait till the latest scan. There, that, right? That rain cooled air, when it gets detached like it is now from the actual precipitation, which is what we kind of have going on here, where we have this, distance there between Okolona and locations east. That's 14 miles difference between where the actual rain cooled air is expanding eastward. That's, kind of what's, happening out there ahead. And then, of course, what we have where the actual thunderstorms are. So when that kind of gets detached, typically that leads to a little bit of a weakening of what's behind it. Certainly there's a big detachment going on farther south. So let's bring it in here north. I would say, again, our strongest portion probably is this part up here that's over top of Tupelo that, is arguably the non-severe portion of this. And so we'll bring it back here, I think, to our typical version of the way we look at radar here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, the precipitation mode. That portion there, from I-22 and US 45 there, out there close to the Auburn area, that's certainly closer to, in particular, right over top of Veterans Boulevard along I-22. Definitely looks like it is getting kind of the worst of whatever this is at this point. And a lot of lightning just in this small area here where, shows Forest Hills. Um, Again, if I put on all the different lightning strikes, definitely a lot of strong with that. No rotation of significance. So anything you're seeing spinning in the clouds, that's not something of concern. Right where that says Forest Hills, that's just south there of I-22 and the Veterans Boulevard exit there in the Tupelo area. So a lot of heavy rainfall with this. And again, I think that's probably the biggest impact with this, kind of that sort of blinding rainfall that these storms sometimes can produce from time to time. Here are those lightning strikes, again, kind of expanding southeastward. So again, if you're ahead of this, let's go ahead and get locations. And we'll have to do kind of a couple of what we call point tracks on this, or cone tracks, to kind of show kind of where this is. I'd say the heaviest portion of this, again, it's not moving super fast. This is a 1 hour loop. And I would say 15 miles per hour might be pushing it a little bit there. So kind of the heaviest portion, if that can hold together, we show Skyline 140. Current time right now is coming in about 140. So basically over top of you, Moorville about 153, Ballardsville about 203, Greenwood, of course, that's, up here. That'd be in Itawamba County at 212, not the Greenwood and the Delta, obviously. Abney at about 217, 221 there in West Fulton, and coming in about 235. I mentioned West Fulton. Let's kind of see what Fulton looks like. We have some MDOT cameras there that we can query there in the Fulton areas. That's kind of coming toward you. And the lower right-hand portion of the screen kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like, kind of looking back into this long I-22, what folks there in Fulton looking westbound would be looking at. That's the kind of westbound ramp there. Of course, the intersection of I-22 and Mississippi 25, where these cameras are all located, but that'd be kind of the lower right-hand corner of the westbound look there as folks look to head kind of back into this. Other side of this would be from the Pontotoc area. Let's see if I can get that to kind of populate here for a second. So this would be Pontotoc. We'll see the angle that this camera is looking here for a moment. Again, heavy rainfall with that. I don't think I have a good angle on that camera there, unfortunately. Let me see if I can see if we can adjust that. So give me just a moment to do that. Again, this severe thunderstorm warning, as you can see there, it's kind of quarried on the screen, but Pontotoc County is still technically in that. But the reality is the worst of that has large did Pontotoc County, and that portion of the thunderstorm has pretty much collapsed at this point in time. So back here, the Mississippi Live Weather Radar, go and clear everything off of that for a moment. So again, kind of the big headline here, I don't know that we're necessarily going to keep this coverage going, because I'd say the severe portion of this, again, what prompted the warning there, this is non-severe. I would say all this that we have down here, down here, Verona, in this warning itself, I would say is below severe limits at this point. So I would say we're largely okay with that. The only question is whether or not if on the north end there, that portion's over top of Tupelo is kicking out a couple stronger wind gusts. I would say most are probably 40, 45 miles per hour at most. I have not seen much more than that looking at Mississippi Live weather radar at this point, thankfully. But again, I'm going to put the lightning strikes, and in particular, kind of the lightning query that allows it. Give me a moment here to stop an alarm behind the scenes. Let me see if it will allow me to. Man, I'm not getting it to pull up my number of lightning strikes at the moment. But definitely, as you can see, there's clearly just looking at all the zigzags on there, all those lightning bolts. No question that this is the part of this that is the most impressive as far as that lightning count is concerned. So moving toward Ballsville, Plantersville, this is the most important part or most interesting part of the thunderstorm. And so really, honestly, if you're out here kind of west of US 45, north of I-22, the worst is past you. I would say largely north of Main Street as well, the worst is past you as well. And largely, more than anything else, is a lot of heavy rainfall going along with this. So certainly going to continue to monitor things as far as is concerned. Again, that severe thunderstorm warning, I'll query that here, get to kind of populate there for a moment. Again, this is the far southern portion of Lee County there that's involved with this. So the worst is frankly to the south of you. Excuse me, yeah, I mean the worst is north of where that actual warning. So expecting that to probably be dropped here pretty quickly, frankly, because that portion of the thunderstorm uh, is frankly the weaker part. It's the part north that's the more significant. One thing we have not mentioned at this moment, I do want to kind of go back here for a moment. You know, so there is a aerial flood advisory in effect for locations there in Pontotoc County. That's in effect until 4:15. That tends to happen when there is kind of the most intense precipitation. You know, let's look at some of the rainfall accumulations on this to this point. I'll see if I can get that kind of populated in here. You know, 3-hour rainfall totals. We see the yellows there. That's more than 2 inches for some of those locations. And I think that's the reason that was initially put out. But as you can see there, looking closer, definitely a fairly hefty amount in and around the in and around Lee County as well. I'm gonna see if I can get that to populate in. Give me a moment to put that there. We show near the, I guess that'd be just east of I-22 and 45. That's 2 inches. The concern with that, though, is that's 2 inches over a fairly short period of time. If I make this just a, 30-minute loop, you can see the majority of that has fallen over a very short period of time. So that's where it really starts to add up. This is the 30-minute loop. You notice how that one area there, that shows most that's fallen in the last 30 minutes. So not inconceivable another one of these flood advisories is necessary for locations there within the next little bit. So expecting the severe thunderstorm warning for southern Lee County to be dropped here fairly quickly. We do not have any reports of damage that I can necessarily bring in here as well. Gabe, if you can hear me behind the scenes, I don't know if you have your IFB in or not. Just go ahead and text me and let me know as we're looking at that. But again, the tops on this showing it definitely is a fairly high thunderstorm, and when they do go through a little bit of collapsing phase from time to time. That can kick out a couple of stronger wind gusts, but we just have not, just looking at base velocity here, just looking at the wind mode, have not seen a ton of strong winds out of this, thankfully, as you can see here. So go ahead and clear that out. Yeah, I would say this northern part where we have the greatest amount of lightning, there just isn't a lot of significant wind out of this, thankfully. So it's the rainfall we've wanted, maybe coming a little faster than some of us would have liked in this scenario, but that's the way it happens from time to time here as well. So give me a moment here. So I'll let y'all know. See, I am behind the scenes here, just kind of run this off an iPad from my vacation location down here in Florida. So I apologize if it's not necessarily the coverage we typically do in this scenario, but we did want to make sure we came in here and gave you an update on kind of what we have going on here as well. So our meteorologist gave me the behind the scenes the TV station at the broadcast facility now. So he'll be monitoring things as we go throughout the afternoon. If we have additional warnings, certainly he will have updates related to that. But one more time, I want to give you kind of one more look over here, all here at Mississippi Live Weather Radar at this point. And largely what we see going on here is a non-severe thunderstorm that is heavy and producing some winds, I would say, but certainly really, really, really heavy rainfall remains the bigger impact that a lot of us probably are seeing at this point out of this. So I'm going to widen this just a little bit more. Yep. And now let's just go look at the whole viewing area as a whole, just from a make sure there's nothing else out there of concern. Do have some flash flood warnings back in the Delta related to some stuff we had earlier on, but mostly at this point here, looks like that is largely obviously collapsed. And you can see that we do have, generally speaking, this kind of longer line of rain-cooled outflow going on here. I'll go ahead and go back to the blue line there to kind of show that this, generally speaking, rain-cooled air, or at least an area of lift that as it expands, additional thunderstorms could develop kind of on the leading edge of that for some spots. So not impossible here on the leading edge to have a few spotty storms develop into this afternoon. The thing as far as I'd say some of the high school football games this evening are concerned, which obviously is something we have with our Mississippi Live Weather Game of the Week there in South Pontotoc. We expect that, if we have this kind of coverage right now, it's going to be difficult in this scenario to see a big recovery. So I think a lot of the folks who have had some heavier rain probably don't have as great a chance later on today. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. Of course, got a big game Tupelo going on as well. So some big games going on out there for high school football this evening. So we'll be monitoring things very, very closely. But you can see that severe thunderstorm warning now allowed to expire and will not be extended. Certainly, if something does change as far as that is concerned, we will bring you additional live coverage here. But keep it here for the very latest, and we'll keep you up to date.